Good evening. On behalf of WKVT Radio and Brattleboro Community Television, welcome to the 2016 Brattleboro Select Board Candidates Forum. We are simulcasting these proceedings live on 100.3 FM and at 1490 AM, as well as Comcast and Southern Vermont Cable Channel 10, and streaming live on BrattleboroTV.org. We're here in the Select Board meeting room, and members of the public are present at the Municipal Center. And this is an appropriate place to host this candidates forum because after you go to the polls on March 1st, two of these three gentlemen will be spending a great deal of their year in this very space. They are current Select Board Chair David Gartenstein, Dick DeGray, and Avery Schwenk. My name is Chris Lenois, and joining me tonight for moderating and timekeeping duties is one of my colleagues at WKVT, Natalie Knowles, who will now explain tonight's format.
The candidates will have up to 2 minutes to answer each of the questions. We will prompt them with a sign when they reach 60 seconds, as well as within the 2-minute mark. Now, gentlemen, we won't cut you off at that point, but we ask that you please conclude your remarks so we can move on to other topics. Thanks to the staff at Brattleboro Reformer, Commons, iBrattleboro, and the public for their input in topics they thought were important to address tonight. Before the forum, we had the three candidates draw numbers to determine the sequence in which they would answer. The order will progress by one for each of the following questions, so everyone has a chance to go first, second, or last. Mr. DeGray, you have the first crack at the first question, followed by Mr. Schwenk and then Mr. Gartenstein. So starting off appropriately enough with a chance to get to know each of you, please share with voters some of your personal and professional background that makes you a good choice to serve on the town select board.
Well, thank you, Natalie, and thank you, KVT, for hosting this format along with BCTV. Before I start, I would like to thank Donna McCumber for her years of service as a select board member as she is stepping down. My name is Richard DeGray, and some of you may know me because I served on this board for 7 years. I left the board in 2013, and you may see me doing my other favorite job is downtown beautification and beautification up at Citizens Bridge. I'm really passionate about Brattleboro. I truly love this community. I have seen what it has done in times of crisis. In 2011, which was probably the worst year in my 30-plus years of living in town, with the Brooks House fire, two untimely homicides, and Hurricane Irene, our community was really devastated. But I saw what we were really made of and how we came together to help the people that resided in the Brooks House. We were a major player in assisting those people finding new places to live. We were a major player in getting the Brooks House back online after 2 years of sitting dormant, which had a huge impact on our downtown. Hurricane Irene was devastating. The week prior to the hurricane, we were planning for a high wind event and primarily power outages. Little did we know that the corridor of the Whetstone Brook would devastate our community for years to follow. But we came together, as a community should, and helped each other out like good neighbors. When I was elected in 2006, was probably the most difficult year for me because there were such financial issues that were happening at that time.
Excuse me,
There
Mr.
were
DeGray,
deficits.
you're at 2 minutes, so please.
Well, I'm not going to progress any longer, so thank you very much, and I'm sure my comments, I'll get to throw them in down the line. Thank you.
Mr. Schwenk, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, I'd like to echo the thanks that Dick just said to our moderators, WKVT and BCTV, for hosting this event. I'm Avery Schwenk, one of the co-founders and owners of Hermit Thrush Brewery right in downtown Brattleboro. I'm a relative newcomer to the area. Opened up our business a little over a year ago, but Brattleboro has been spectacularly generous and welcoming to both me and my business partner here. And I'm really interested in helping to give back some of that to the town by serving on the select board. My background actually wasn't originally in business. I served for 6 years as a paramedic outside of Philadelphia. I have quite a bit of experience in the medical field, emergency management, as well as a lot of training with teamwork, problem solving, and just generally being able to learn on the job. I think that I'd be a great candidate, mostly because of that. I have an ability to think on my feet, work together, come to consensus, and make tough decisions. I also think that it's good to have a voice of diversity on the select board. I would be the youngest member of the select board. I'm just coming up with my 30th birthday next year. There's a thriving young community in Brattleboro that I have heard is feeling very left out of the political scene as of now. And I think that having a voice for those people would be a great benefit to the town. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Gartenstein, you have 2 minutes to answer the question as well.
Chris and Natalie, I want to thank you very much for moderating this candidates forum, and I want to welcome everybody who's watching us on TV and listening on the radio, whether live or pre-recorded. I'm David Gartenstein, and I'm currently chair of Brattleboro Select Board. I've been on Select Board for 5 years, the last 3 as chair. I first moved here to Brattleboro 34 years ago in 1982, and I have served in a series of government positions during that time, 9 years on Development Review Board, 3 years on the town school board, 2.5 years on the high school board, and now 5 years on Select Board. Married, father of 3 sons. I work as a deputy state's attorney here in Windham County, working serious felony cases, and I'm a cross-country skier. I wish there was more snow this winter. The things that I'm really most proud of on Select Board are the constructive way in which we've been doing our business over these last years. We've faced a lot of challenges and had a lot of accomplishments, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about those over the course of this evening. But I'm asking for your vote because I want to continue my work on Select Board, making our town government responsive, open, and transparent, and making sure the town services are provided in a cost-effective way.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. On to the next question. We'd like to raise some key issues that the town faces and ask each of you what you feel the role of the Select Board is in addressing them. So, Mr. Schwenk, we'll start with you. The first question is of public safety as relating to crime. So how do you feel, what role does the Select Board play in terms of public safety?
Sure. I believe that the Select Board plays the role in public safety of helping direct and guide the local police force, fire department. I think that there's been a lot of concern recently about the new fire and police building. It sounds like the Select Board's come to a pretty solid decision on where we're heading with that. I think that we need to move forward and continue to address issues as they come up.
Mr. Gartenstein?
Thank you. The role of municipal government is to make sure that essential municipal services are being funded and managed in an effective way. Select Board provides direction to our administration, including town manager and department heads, about priorities on which we should focus as a town and making sure that the resources are available in order to ensure, among other things, public safety. When we talk about public safety related issues, we're talking primarily about our police department and our fire department, although making sure that our system of roads and bridges are also properly maintained is an important part of making sure that our emergency services can be provided. We have worked consistently to make sure that our emergency services departments have the resources they need in order to respond to emergencies and routine matters. And one of the most significant issues that we've faced is crumbling infrastructure. We had presented to the voters and in 2012 got authority to rebuild the police and fire facilities, but after our budget was rejected about a year and a half later at referendum, we went back and re-envisioned the police and fire facilities upgrade with the goal of presenting a more cost-effective solution to the problems that we're facing with our police and fire infrastructure. We have a town meeting scheduled for March 12th, where we're going to be considering the new proposal for how to move forward with police fire facilities improvements, and we look forward to discussing those with the community.
Thank you. And Mr. DeGray?
Thank you. I certainly echo a lot of what David has said, certainly providing the funding to make sure that our public service, our police department and fire department have the supplies and the manpower that they need, which has become increasingly difficult for us because we have people moving on either to the state police or to other jobs that are higher paying. And so it costs us money to train people, and then they're moving on. I was the chair of the board when we passed the initial bond initiative for the police fire station, and it passed overwhelmingly. And so I was deeply disappointed when the budget got rejected a year later, and the select board had to revisit the issue. I think it is a very important issue for our community that we provide a safe working environment for our police and fire departments. Those people serve us 365 days a year and 24/7. So I'm in support. I'm not sure what's going to happen on the 12th. I'm sure it will be a lively discussion. But it is essential that we do something for the people who protect us 24/7. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, what you feel the role of the Select Board is in the ongoing discussion about homelessness and concerns about their visibility in the community. So we're going to start off with Mr. Gartenstein.
It's important to make sure that we have essential municipal services that are provided to all members of our community. The problems of homelessness that we face here in Brattleboro impact us locally, but arise from much broader issues than can be tackled just by municipal government. We here in Brattleboro are the regional economic hub, and we have very significant tax burden that we face, and we need to balance how best to provide services to everybody who's here in town. Our police department and our town manager have been working with the personnel who are advocating on behalf of the homeless population with the goal of addressing the issues that they present. We have, in fact, at Select Board funded exploration of new facility for the drop-in center, which we hope will be located on Flat Street, so there will be transitional housing available, and we want to make sure that services are available to the homeless while at the same time making sure that area businesses are not negatively impacted by people who are spending entire days at those locations because they've got no place else to go.
Thank you. Mr. DeGray, same question for you.
Thank you. I think there's $20,000 in the upcoming budget for groundworks for what David was alluding to support an endeavor for Flat Street of a purchase of a building down there. You know, I'm on the street quite a bit, and not only do I see homeless people, but we have a rather large number of people who have other issues besides the homelessness. And it does have a negative impact downtown. And if you go in and you talk to merchants, they're very concerned about it. There's a huge epidemic of panhandling downtown. And merchants feel that. The people that are visiting our town, our local residents, certainly see it. I believe that the board, I'm not sure, maybe David can touch upon this, but I do believe that the board is working on some sort of ordinance to come into play this year about the panhandling issue. I believe we do have a role in working with the agencies to best solve these problems. You know, when someone is drug addicted or has alcohol issues, you know, it's a problem that they don't need incarceration, they need help. So I'm in big support of doing whatever we can to get the services to the people that need them, but I'm not sure that the Select Board is the one to lead that. I think we have a role in supporting the people who provide those services and can do so at a much better level that the Select Board can.
Thank you. And Mr. Schwenk, the same question
Yep,
for
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I'm going to echo what both the previous gentlemen said. I'm not sure how strong the Select Board's role is in trying to find one solution to a problem that has many, many, many causes. By helping, there are a lot of creative ideas out in the community right now, nonprofit organizations and others that are working very hard to address these. And I think by supporting them in the ways that we are able, whether it's financially or just by, you know, providing a voice to whether it's the homeless people or to the organizations that are trying to help. I think that is the best way to start addressing the problem. But mostly, it can be partially addressed by economic development. A lot of people are suffering from homelessness not just because of addiction problems, but because of joblessness. And by strengthening our local economy, I think we can take it in another direction on the issue. And I believe the Select Board can play a role in providing a healthy and thriving business economy in the area.
Thank you. And we'll start with Mr. DeGray in what you feel the role of the Select Board is in the rising cost of property taxes and the services they pay for.
Well, that's the home run question, and it's a very difficult question because we're limited on other revenue that the town receives. My first year on the board, I was successful in getting the 1% rooms and meals tax approved at a special town meeting. The vote on the board was 3-2 to take it to special town meeting. And since that inception, we have raised $2.6 million. That's pretty good revenue. And considering we are a transient town and we're a hub town, and David and I certainly feel this way, that we have many people coming into our community on a daily basis from the surrounding smaller towns that work here. And there needs to be a way to tap into that, and the 1% was a way to get some added revenue for us. Our budget is pretty bare bones, and I would commend the Select Board since I've left. The huge culprit is the capital plan, and that has a huge impact on us. And so trying to grow the grand list, and if I had $1 every time I heard grow the grand list or economic development, we wouldn't need other funds. The only actual growth to our grand list has been 2 car dealerships that refurbished their place, and that's added significant dollars to the grand list. As for growth. Commonwealth Yogurt, when I was on the board, we were able to get them to pick Brattleboro over Bennington and West Springfield, and they thought they were only going to have 30 jobs. They have over 90, and that has been the last big economic growth in our community in terms of job creation.
Thank you. Mr. Schwenk.
Thank you. We are limited in the ways that we can raise money as a select board. Well, I do think we do have our tools already in our belt that we can use to further grow that revenue by making, again, like I said, making Brattleboro a fertile and enticing place for people to come and do business. We do not want to scare off new business people. As one myself, I looked all over the state when looking at where to start my business and chose Brattleboro specifically because of some of the opportunities that it presents as a hub town in the area, as a gateway into Vermont from Connecticut, New York, and Massachusetts. There's a lot of potential in the town, and I think that what we need to do is continue on the path we're moving. I'm seeing fewer closed storefronts even since I've moved into town, and I have a very positive feeling about the way my business is going. We're growing. We've already doubled in size since we've opened, both in terms of space and in terms of employees, and I think that we have the ability to, as a town, to continue to do more of the same.
Mr. Gartenstein.
I've been thinking for a long time and trying to figure out why our property taxes here in Brattleboro are so high. And while I think that having a solid business environment is important, and while I think that growing the grand list is an important objective, I think the solution to the high property taxes in Brattleboro lies with the state government. As the engine for the region's economy, we have to provide a huge range of services in order to support the economy for the entire region. But the state of Vermont only authorizes us to raise money to fund our government and our government services through real estate taxes, rooms and meals taxes, alcohol tax, and the local option sales tax. And because we're on the border of New Hampshire, we can't levy the local option sales tax for fear that we're going to push businesses over the river and into New Hampshire. We have looked at other ways to try to raise revenue, for example, through tax agreements that would provide us with payments in lieu of taxes from businesses that don't pay real estate taxes and entities that don't pay real estate taxes. But those aren't really the ways that I think we can raise funds. We need for the state government to authorize us to raise revenue in ways that are proportionate to the services we need to provide. I happen to think that the best way to do that is if we would be authorized to levy a very small income tax, maybe 0.25%, on all the people who come into town and work here, but without relief from the state government in the way that we can raise revenue to fund the services we have to provide. I don't know that we're really going to be able to dig out of the way substantial tax burden that our real estate owners have to bear.
Thank you. And the last part of that question, we'll start with Mr. Schwenk. What do you feel the role of the Select Board is in encouraging consumers to buy local?
Thank you. That's actually a question that's very near and dear to my heart. I think it's pretty much what I've been saying for the last few answers, is that we need to continue to have a fertile and strong, healthy business environment in Brattleboro. I think we have a lot of opportunities available right now. The town loan program is absolutely fantastic. Helped my business get started. We have some really excellent infrastructure in terms of waste management. That's also very helpful for food production and manufacturers in the area. I think we need to look at being supportive of the kinds of businesses that we are well set up to receive right now and continue to grow jobs and then reap the benefits of having those local businesses and local products.
Mr. Gartenstein.
I think our role on Select Board is to make sure that the foundation is present so that businesses can thrive and so that people want to live here because it's a great place to live. It's something that we have worked to accomplish and to maintain through good times and through difficult times. Mr. DeGray's opening statement referred to the challenges we faced during the Brooks House fire and then when Tropical Storm Irene came through. Throughout those events, we made sure that municipal services were being provided and that public safety was being maintained. And as a result, we were able to make sure that local businesses continued to operate and continued to thrive. And Avery's exactly right. There are less empty storefronts on Main Street than we've had in some time. And we faced a real risk when the Brooks House fire happened, that we would be having substantial blight downtown. But by reinvesting in our community, we succeeded in avoiding that risk. And by having a vital business community that's attractive, that invites people into town, we can continue to grow our downtown community and to make this an attractive place where people want to live.
And Mr. DeGray, same question.
Thank you. One of the roles that the Select Board can play is, A, making sure that our infrastructure is good and we have a safe downtown where people can feel comfortable walking around. Certainly when I was on the board for 7 years, I was a cheerleader for our town, shop local. And I always would say there's something at every price point for people in our community. You just have to go down there and walk around, and it's there for you. We have wonderful shops downtown. I'm glad Avery chose to come in here, and Avery chose to come in when there's a tax on equipment and machinery, so that was nice of him to do that. And but BABB, now DBA, had its struggles, and I certainly had my issues with them, but they are on the right foot. They provide the funding for me to do all of that beautification downtown. And David, you're right. I think it is important to have our town look attractive. To attract, you must be attractive. And I believe that our downtown shops, along with the outlying stores, are doing much better than we did several years ago. I would agree with the 1% sales tax. I tried to get it pushed through. I believe that it was a great source of revenue for the community. I certainly agree with, we live on the river, but the legislature has to give the river towns another opportunity to raise resources so that we can effectively bring down our tax rate and become more attractive for people to want to move here and possibly move their business here. Brattleboro is very expensive. We're one of the highest tax rates in the whole state. But we do have a great deal of transient traffic that comes here. People love our downtown. They love our community. They love the arts community. So we have a real plum here, and we just need to know how we need to market it better to get more people to come.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now that we have a sense of where you stand on each of the issues, we'd like to give a sense of your priorities. Given that the term you're running for is just 1 year, what do you feel are the most crucial issues to address, and how do you solve the issue or move closer to a solution as a select board? And Mr. Gartenstein, we begin with you.
Thank you, Chris. There are two particular issues that are on the horizon that are going to be addressed over the course of the next 3 or 4 months at select board level. The first is the police and fire facilities renovation work. We previously proposed and the town meeting previously supported doing work here at the Municipal Center and then at Central Fire and in West Brattleboro in order to rehabilitate the facilities. But based upon extensive work that we did with administration and listening to the public, there's a proposal to move the police station up to property on Black Mountain Road, and that's something town meeting is going to have to make a decision about, and Select Board will then be working to implement that. In addition, we transitioned to pay-as-you-throw last summer, and because we've been so successful with that system, reducing the level of trash that's collected for landfill disposal by more than 50%, we're going to be transitioning to garbage collection every other week, starting in the summer, and that's something we need to work with the population to make sure that the transition is effective. In the long term, whether the police department moves up to Putney Road or stays here, we also have significant issues that need to be addressed with respect to the municipal center. We have important life safety work that needs to be continued and completed here. And then, like I said before, we want to continue our advocacy with the goal of trying to find ways and prevailing on the state to give us ways to raise revenue that will allow us to bring the tax burden on real estate owners down.
Thank you. Mr. DeGray, your sense of priorities for the town and how you would move forward on those issues.
Well, certainly the number one priority is the police fire station, and if everything plays out, then what happens to the building that we're actually sitting in. And I believe that that will be a great discussion as to whether we stay here or whether we move out. It certainly is a significant cost to maintain this building. One of the things you learn as a select board person, there's always something in the on-deck circle, and more often than not, it's not something that you're expecting. David had to deal with the Bird Street Bridge this past year and the retaining wall that certainly is not fixed yet, but it should be this summer. So there's always a host of issues that you're not planning for. We never planned for Hurricane Irene. We never thought that we were going to have a huge fire like we had downtown. So the board, certainly, this is the number one issue, I believe, is the police fire and what happens here. And I don't disagree. I certainly would like to talk about the utility fund because I think there might be some revenue there to help us in terms of cost savings the first couple of years of the debt service payment on the bond.
Thank you. Mr. Schwenk, 365 days after March 1st if you're elected, so what do you prioritize and how do you move forward on those things?
I can be honest, my first priority would be getting up to speed in the select board as the only person up for election that hasn't served prior. I would play the role of a junior member. I'm an excellent listener and a very fast learner, and I would want to get up to speed on the issues as quickly as possible. I think everyone listening and watching has heard and probably would agree that the biggest issue right now is the police fire building. So it's going to depend on how it goes on town meeting day, and we'll move forward from there depending on what happens. Beyond that, again, I'm just going to reiterate that I think that making sure that Brattleboro continues to be and moves forward as a healthy business place that can attract business owners and young people and entrepreneurs and continues to grow as a strong, healthy business community, and providing a voice of a newcomer to the area and as a younger person in the area and as a business owner in the area, adding my voice into those of the select board to come to consensus decisions and work hard to work together.
Thank you very much. Next question, and we had posted on the Green Mountain Mornings Facebook page as well as the Classic Hits 92.7 Facebook page. Brattleboro Community Television did the same, asking the public for input on questions. And seemed to us that some of the issues that sparked the most public discussion probably won't be a surprise to you. A police fire facility was certainly mentioned, parking downtown, traffic lights downtown, even the skate park, of course, is something that has come up on message boards online. And it struck me that all of these issues really at the root is somewhat of a question of how we perceive Brattleboro. Is it a large village? Is it a small city? Is it just a regular old Vermont town? So I'm curious to know, each of you, what you think the right size for Brattleboro is and whether it should be trying to grow. Mr. DeGray, you get this question first.
Well, I believe it, excuse me, I believe it's been trying to grow, Chris, and it's been trying to grow for 50 or 60 years, but it seems like our population has remained around 12,000. One of the things that affects our community is the cost of our community. It's not inexpensive to live in Brattleboro. It's not inexpensive to be a renter in Brattleboro. And so I think the board certainly needs to, the board does a good job with its budget. And the boards before I served on it, the boards that I served with for 7 years, 4 as the chair, and the past 3, there's a lot of hard work that goes into that. It's really a bare bones budget. It's primarily personnel that has the huge impact on us, but we're providing the services that people want. And the only way that you're going to reduce that tax burden without another source of revenue is to reduce services, and people don't want their services reduced. I believe that we do have some space to grow, but anybody who thinks that some corporation is going to move here and provide 400 jobs that's not going to happen. I think our growth is in small sector, 4 or 5 people working out of their homes, small office space, and if we can play a role in probably providing some space for startup businesses, I think that would be a good role for us.
Thank you. Mr. Schwenk, your thoughts on what the right size for Brattleboro should be?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question, the right size. Talking with residents, visitors, I think there's a pretty strong consensus that Brattleboro is a unique town. And I think it's been growing, it's been developing, it's changing. Brattleboro is in flux right now. I think that we need to address that in that we need to be adaptable. We need to let Brattleboro grow the way it's going to grow. There will always be gripes about traffic downtown because someone will not be happy about whether they got a parking spot or not. But I think we should look at look at the greater issues and see why is that and whether that needs to be addressed by adding more parking spaces or by expanding the size of downtown. By adding small businesses, I think, is a fantastic way to grow the integrity of the town. I agree with Dick that small sector is the way to go. Specifically in agriculture, in green building, and technology, which are the 3 areas that we have the most ability to grow. Those can be small companies, but they can also have a large impact economically and in terms of just kind of continuing to develop and grow the ever-changing community of Brattleboro.
Thank you. Mr. Gartenstein, what is Brattleboro and where should it be going?
Well, straight out of college in 1982, I hitchhiked up here to Brattleboro. I had never been here before. And I was immediately taken in by the town. It's a vibrant, dynamic, energetic place. And one of the things that most drew me here and that has kept me here ever since and drawn me back here ever since is the livable scale of the town. I realized after being here for a couple or 3 years that I could be directly involved and make a difference in our participatory democracy, given the size and the scale of the town. And I think it's really what's unique about Brattleboro. I don't think we're a small city. I think we're a small town. And I think the population here in Brattleboro has remained about the same for a very long time. 12,000 people, decades and decades, probably back to the beginning of the 20th century. And we've got a town that continues to renew itself, to evolve. And I think Brattleboro is a great size, and I like it the way it is.
Thank you very much.
So, gentlemen, let's talk governance. What do you think about the current structure of a select board and representative town meeting body for meeting Brattleboro's needs? We're going to start with Mr. Schwenk with this question. Thank you.
Thank you. I am personally a big fan of the select board and town meeting structure because it does allow for greater participation from a majority of the community. As someone, again, new to the area, a small business owner, and a young person, being able to have the opportunity to even run for an office is really thrilling for me. And to be able to have that opportunity to directly give back on a civil level is absolutely spectacular, and I think that it would be a huge mistake to move away from the current structure that we have because of the participation that it allows.
I think that question that you asked, Natalie, requires us to look at three primary different alternatives. One of those alternatives is, should we have a mayor? On the other end of the spectrum, should we have fully open town meeting rather than representative town meeting? And then does representative town meeting with select board properly and fully protect the public good here in town? I've heard calls over the years for a mayoral form of government. It's really not clear to me what evil that would address and respond to and fix. We have a select board form of government, like a city council, which is responsible as a group for gathering information, considering that information, listening to the public, and then making decisions that are in the public interest. We have a representative town meeting form of government rather than open town meeting. I think the theory behind that originally in the late 50s and early 60s when it was adopted was that we wanted to make sure that town meeting wasn't being packed by people who had issue-oriented concerns and weren't going to be a stable group within the representative town meeting. I think that representative town meeting works just fine given the number of people who really want to participate on a regular basis. At this time, we're even struggling to find enough people to come to town meeting. At this point, the ballot slots are not full. And I think that everybody who wants an opportunity to participate in the life of our town through its government can find that opportunity. So I think the government is functioning in a very responsive way.
Mr. DeGray?
Thank you. Well, one of the things about our representative government, in the past 5 years, we have had a high number of vacancies in each district. And I don't think that's a good way for us to have representatives representing us by me making a call and saying, hey, you want to be a town meeting member? There's 10 openings. You need to come to the caucus, and I'll advocate for you. Avery talked about his being under 30 years old. We don't have young people vying to be town meeting members when the opportunity is there. And I think with the community looking at a younger generation, those people need to participate. And David was talking about when our charter was formed. When I first became a town meeting member, there were races for town meeting members. And now, if you put your name in, you pretty much get a seat. So I'm really concerned about the lack of participation in our form of government. As for a mayor, certainly I could support a mayor. Do I think anything is going to change? When that question was posed to me several years ago, Barb Sontag was our town manager, and I said if we go to a mayoral system and she wants to be the mayor, she's going to get elected mayor. And I would say the same thing about our present town manager, who I think does an excellent job. If we went to that form of government and he wanted to be the mayor, I would be his campaign manager. But I think we do have to talk about representative government because right now it is stumbling a little bit, and I hope the board brings this up this year as something to talk about and see what we can do to help foster greater participation in our town government.
Thank you. Now, there was a period of time last year during meetings when time was being set aside to discuss the board's role, if any, in economic development. So we'll start with Mr. Gartenstein. Tell us what you think is the best approach for Town Select Board to take on this issue.
I think that the generally accepted model for economic development recognizes that the town can't go it alone, but rather that we need to do economic development regionally and statewide. And so Select Board over the last year or two has been focusing on what is the best role for the town to play in economic development. And what we've concluded is that being a solid partner in regional economic development efforts is the best way to foster our local economy. The single best example of how we can play a positive role in economic development in the town is the work that we did to and how we participated in keeping GS Precision here. So GS Precision, which is one of our local high-tech businesses, was seriously considering moving to New Hampshire and taking their jobs with them. And rather than allowing that to happen, we at the town level worked with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation and with the state, and drew on state resources and then on federal resources in order to make it attractive for GS Precision not just to stay here, but also to expand. So we have been participating in regional economic development efforts. There are towns in the county that use the money that they raise from the local option sales tax to directly try to fund certain economic development activities, but we don't have that luxury because we can't raise the local option sales tax. I think the way that we are currently working on economic development by cooperating with our partners is the best way to go.
Mr. DeGray.
Thank you. As I said earlier in my remarks, Commonwealth Yogurt was the largest economic enterprise to come into Brattleboro. And I was certainly, as the chair of the board, part of the team, and I want to emphasize team, that persuaded them to come here. And not only with the tax stabilization agreements that we gave them. Certainly, BDCC played a role along with the state and provided other funding for them to come to Brattleboro. I certainly, as the chair, my last year on the board, the town manager and I were visiting the different corporation leaders in our community. When we'd always say, how do you grow the grand list? And one of my concerns was, how do we keep what we have? And what happened with GSP is a great example of that, trying to keep our employers and not let them move out of the community. So I was doing that 3 years ago, trying to say, okay, what can we do to help you out and to make sure you stay here providing the good jobs that you do? So we do need to work as a team, not only with BDCC, but with our state officials. And certainly, we need to find another source of revenue to help us in terms of attracting and giving more incentives for people to come to the community.
Mr. Schwenk.
I think economic development is extremely important, and collaboration is the name of the game. BDCC has been mentioned, the state, also the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies Board has been doing a lot of regional work because not only should we be working with these organizations, we also need to work with our regional towns. Brattleboro has been cited as a hub, but we're not in it alone. We do need to work with our regional partners and look at greater strategies for whether it's just in Windham County or whether it's over with Bennington County or even over the border, how we can work together with all of our regional resources and really develop a thriving economic hub. I think that Brattleboro is well set up to do with our really strong industry in green building, agriculture, manufacturing, GS Precision, technical manufacture, as well as technology. So continuing to work with the organizations that are already doing great work, supporting them, and trying to help them get the resources that they need to do their job even better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staying a bit on the economic development front here, and a question that begins in one place but goes to another, so bear with me. The state has been discussing marijuana legalization, and there is a bill right now in the Senate Finance Committee where Senator Virginia Lyons has suggested that municipalities implement a 1% local options tax to help pay for the $2.2 million in startup costs for marijuana legalization. How do each of you feel about that? And if you think it's a good idea, what do you feel the revenue should be used toward? And this question first goes to you, Mr. DeGray.
Well, certainly a lot of the people that I have talked to, a lot in the medical profession, don't support the legalization of marijuana. Someone made a statement that said the pot today is not like the pot of 30 years ago. I have no idea. I've never smoked pot. I'm not for implementing any, giving the towns the authority to implement any option tax to support any endeavor like that. I think that the legislature needs to work on giving municipalities another way to generate revenue, whatever that might be, and if it's for river towns, to use as a source of income to reduce its tax burden, and whether that's a potential gas tax or whatever. But I don't support any. I certainly don't support the legalization of marijuana, and it will be interesting. To me, it's all about money and the legislature wanting to spend money. There certainly are a host of problems with it. I support medical marijuana use, but I don't certainly support the use of marijuana being sold for us to use and consume.
Mr. Schwenk, your thoughts on the local options tax to help pay for startup costs for legalization of marijuana?
First of all, let me say that I think that it's a much safer route to take with legalization, oversight, and taxing of marijuana than it is to let a black market thrive, because that's already happening and it's going to continue happening. So I think that it is an excellent way for the state to increase the revenue. I think that the local government should not have too much of a role in that, because I believe that the local government has the resources to do that management or to make those decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Gartenstein, same question.
I have not before heard the suggestion that a local option sales tax should be linked in some way to the question whether marijuana should be legalized.
Just happened on Tuesday.
All right, so I think that there's a number of issues that are raised by your question. I'm in favor of legalization. I don't see that the criminalization of marijuana has had any particularly positive impact on our community. And I think that having civil penalties for people who are in possession of weed is sort of schizophrenic. I don't really understand why the government would be imposing civil penalties in that way. I think the local option sales tax is and tying that to marijuana legalization is a very strange concept. If the legislature needs to find ways to raise money to transition to a system where marijuana is legalized, they should find the funds to do that. But we on the river face the same problems arising from imposition of a local option sales tax, whether its purpose is to fund municipal services or to fund a system for legalization of marijuana. We can't impose local option sales tax because it creates the risk of chasing business over into New Hampshire.
Thank you very much for answering that. We're running quickly out of time here. I wanted to give everybody a chance to make a closing statement. If you could just maybe take 30 seconds or so to do that. And I believe we're beginning this one with you, Mr. Schwenk.
Thank you again for hosting this event, giving us the opportunity to voice our opinions and kind of present ourselves to the electorate. Just want to remind you, I'm Avery Schwenk, and I really appreciate your support for Selectboard.
Mr. Gartenstein?
And I'm David Gartenstein. I'm asking for your vote because I hope to continue working on behalf of the people of Brattleboro on Selectboard, and I encourage everybody to come out and vote on March 1st.
Thank you. Mr. DeGray.
And my name is Richard DeGray, and I'm running for the one-year seat. And I certainly have the experience, and I can hit the ground running. I have been an active member in our community for 30-plus years, and so I would appreciate your support. I don't take anything for granted. People say you have name recognition. That means nothing. You need to get to the polls on March 1, and Richard DeGray, bingo. I should be at the top of the list, actually, with the three names alphabetically. So choose me, and again, thank you for this evening.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our Brattleboro Select Board Candidates Forum. Thank you to each of the candidates for taking part in tonight's proceedings. And thank you to the audience in attendance, as well as those listening or watching at home.
We'd like to remind everybody that this forum will be available on demand at BrattleboroTV.org. And BCTV is rebroadcasting it on Channel 10 at 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. tomorrow, as well as 8:30 p.m. on Sunday. An audio podcast will also be available on WKVTradio.com, and it will be re-aired at 8 a.m. the next 3 Saturday mornings right here on WKVT 100.3 FM and 1490 AM. Please go out and vote on the March 1st town meeting day. And on behalf of our board operator, the BCTV production crew, and my colleague Natalie Knowles, good night.
Good night.